We have 16 participants on the line today, so if everyone but the commissioners could mute their line unless you're talking, that would be great. And you'll hear a countdown and we'll get started. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome to the Arapahoe County Public Meeting, October 13th, 2020, and I'll call the meeting to order. On the call today is Ron Carl, County Attorney, and Jolene Sanchez, Clerk to the Board Administrator. Ms. Sanchez, would you call the roll of the board, please?
Yes. Commissioner Conti is absent and excused. Commissioner Sharp?
Here.
Commissioner Baker?
Here.
Commissioner Jackson?
Here.
And Commissioner Holland?
Here. Commissioner Baker, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Madam Chair? Commissioner Conti, have you joined us?
Yes. I just wanted to acknowledge for the record that I am here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Commissioner Baker, please lead us in the pledge.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Carl. Do we have any modifications to the agenda this morning?
There are no modifications.
Thank you, Mr. Carl. I'll ask for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Holland. I so move.
Second. Okay. Motion made by Commissioner Holland. I believe it's seconded by Commissioner Conti. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Now is the time in our meeting where we have citizen comment, is our citizen comment period, and this is for any comments or anything that is not currently on the agenda. If you would like to make comments regarding an agenda item, I will, all of these are public hearings, and I will call and have that open at the time for each one of those items. So is there anyone who would like to speak on anything now that is not on the agenda?
Well, Commissioner, we do have participants on the line. If they would like to speak on items not on the agenda, if they could press *3 to be entered into the queue. We'll give them just a minute. Again, for items that are not on the agenda, if they hit *3, they'll be added into the queue.
To approval of the minutes, we have two sets of minutes to approve. The first was September 8th, 2020, and we had a full board. I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Baker moves to approve those minutes from September 8th. Commissioner Holland seconds the motion.
Thank you. Motion made by Commissioner Baker, seconded by Commissioner Holland. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Our second set of minutes is from September 22nd, 2020. I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, go ahead.
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Conti, and I will make the motion to accept the minutes from the 22nd of September.
Second the motion.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Conti, seconded by Commissioner Holland. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. We'll move on to our consent agenda. As presented, entertain a motion since there were no modifications to the consent agenda this morning. Entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Holland. I so move.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Will second.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Holland, seconded by Commissioner Baker. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. We have three, make sure we've got three public hearings this morning, and the first will be, is AS10, and I can't tell whether it's an, it's ASI, 20-001, Southeast Metro Natural Gas Pipeline. Our presenter is Kathleen Hammer, Planner 2, Public Works and Development. Our attorney on this matter is Senior Assistant County Attorney, Mr. Robert Hill. Mr. Hill, would you set the foundation, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This is a public hearing for a natural gas pipeline application to be heard under the county's regulation governing areas and activities of state interest, also known as our 1041 regulations. This matter has been, the public hearing has been noticed by mailing of adjacent properties, by posting of the property at 2 different locations, and by publication in the village or newspaper as required under the 1041 regulations. The board has jurisdiction to proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Ms. Hammer?
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. Karen Hammer with Public Works. I will be presenting today this project using a PowerPoint that has been uploaded to the agenda. The PowerPoint is titled ASI 20-001 BOCC Staff PowerPoint Updated PDF, and it can be found on the agenda if the Commissioners and the public would like to follow along. The applicant, Public Service Company of Colorado, is doing business as Excel Energy, is requesting approval of an application for a 1041 permit, regulations governing areas and activities of state interest, to construct, operate, and maintain approximately 4 miles of a 20-inch diameter steel natural gas pipeline within unincorporated Arapahoe County. This application, the 1041 application, reviews the environmental and overall impact of the project, while an associated location and extent provides the county with a site plan and specific location of the project. If the entire project is approved, the proposed pipeline will traverse public and private lands within the jurisdiction of the City and County of Denver, City of Aurora, unincorporated Arapahoe County, City of Greenwood Village, City of Centennial, Cherry Creek State Park, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Moving on to slide 3, you'll see a proposed vicinity map. The proposed natural gas pipeline is located within the western portion of the Cherry Creek State Park and travels north to the west side of Cherry Creek Reservoir. The portion of the pipeline located in unincorporated Arapahoe County begins southeast of the intersection of South Peoria Street and East Orchard Road and ends south of the intersection of South Dayton Street and South Dam Road. And on page 3 of the PowerPoint, you will see the highlighted route within unincorporated Arapahoe County. Slide 4 of the presentation shows a map of the adjacent zoning. The proposed pipeline corridor lies entirely within the land that is identified on Arapahoe County zoning map as United States of America. The pipeline corridor is currently owned by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and managed by Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and is currently used as open space. Moving on to slide 5. Planning Commission recommendations. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on September 15, 2020, and the items discussed among staff, the commissioners, and the applicants include a number of things regarding the existing pipeline, landscaping and screening of the proposed above-ground structure, wildlife and fencing around the above-ground Excel Prairie Dog relocation, schedule of construction, relation of this application to approvals by various jurisdictions, property owner agreements, average lifetime of a natural gas pipeline, logic in selecting the proposed route versus the other 6 alternative routes that were studied, compliance during and after construction, staging areas, steps of the pipeline, additional utilities in the area, magnitude of Prairie Dog relocation, safety statistics, as well as the width of the proposed pipeline corridor and construction corridor. Several members of the public spoke with concerns regarding most of the concerns that staff and the commissioners heard at this meeting were Prairie Dog relocation concerns, the existing route and the alternative route, and preservation and protection of the natural habitat and wetlands. Additionally, the commissioners received a number of emails from members of the public who provided written comments to staff prior to the public hearing. Moving on to slide 7, the Planning Commission did vote 5-2, recommending approval of this 1041 application with the 4 staff recommended conditions of approval. At that meeting, the Planning Commission also heard the associated location and extent, and the commissioners voted 5-2 to approve the location and extent with staff recommendations and 3 additional conditions of approval for that location and extent. And those can be seen on slide 8. Staff is recommending that the 3 additional conditions of approval for the L&E application be added to the 1041 case as conditions of approval. Those 3 conditions of approval, as stated in the staff report, the first one being the applicant will employ the services of an experienced, ethical, non-lethal prairie dog relocation specialist, and relocation of such animals shall be subject to the provisions of CSRS 35-7-203 as applicable. The second one, the Planning Commission provided with the location extent, and staff is requesting be included as part of this 1041, is the applicant will provide safety information to the county regarding existing Xcel Energy pipelines currently operated and maintained by Xcel Energy in Colorado. And the third condition of approval, additional condition of approval, the applicant will provide screening and landscaping around the above ground offset as appropriate with approval from the United States Army Corps of Engineers and Colorado State Parks and Wildlife. Since the time of that meeting, Xcel has provided staff with some updated information, and they have indicated that a new plan employs a qualified prairie dog expert, and it will be ultimately up to the prairie dog expert company who will be required to implement the reverse dispersal translocation of the prairie dogs in that area. Addressing the second additional condition of approval, Xcel Energy did provide staff with updated safety information, which can be found on pages 5 through 14 of the document included on the agenda known as ASI 20-001 BSR attachments. And for the third additional condition of approval, Xcel Energy is currently exploring additional screening options, and they have considered a cedar fence with natural landscaping and boulders to prevent vehicle impact, and they've also considered a chain link fence that would be consistent with the fence around the park, and then some natural shrubs and grass that would be able to grow in that area to provide additional screening. Moving on to slide 10, the Southeast Denver metro area is currently served by a 20-inch diameter natural gas pipeline. Xcel Energy wishes to remove some of the existing pipeline as well as keep some of the existing pipeline in service at a lower pressure. But they would like to do this to ensure safety and reliability of gas delivery and ensure compliance with regulatory requirements. Most of the length of the pipeline cannot be constructed in the existing easement because Xcel has stated that over the last 60 years, urban development and population densities have significantly increased around the pipeline, and there has been some encroachment. The applicant did analyze 7 different alternative routes during the project planning phase to ensure minimal disturbance to the existing environment. And the applicant has indicated the proposed route minimizes temporary construction impacts along streets in residential and commercial areas, while best meeting landowners' concerns, minimizing environmental impacts, and achieving project goals. On slide 10 of the PowerPoint, you'll see this, a map of the alternative routes that were analyzed during this project phase. And then on slide 13, you'll see the proposed route that Excel Energy plans to move forward with. As I mentioned earlier, there will be one above-ground structure, and it is proposed to be located near the intersection of South Peoria Street and the Vista Trail. The Bellstep footprint is approximately 50 feet by 50 feet, and like I mentioned earlier, the applicant is currently working on the fencing and screening that they will be proposing to use to screen that Bellstep. Please note that the applicant is including a remote controlled valve, which is used as a safety precaution to isolate the pipeline in case of an emergency. On slide 15 of the PowerPoint, you'll see a representative type of photo of the valve set that they're proposing. This currently doesn't have any screening on it right now, but that is an item that Excel is currently working on. On slide 16 of the PowerPoint, titled Prairie Dog Management Plan, Excel is committed to selecting and will use a qualified contractor to passively relocate prairie dogs for the project. The company is evaluating contractors at this point who have demonstrated successful experience passively relocating prairie dogs and who have the staff to implement the methods outlined in the draft Prairie Dog Management Plan. These contractors do include those recommended by the Prairie Dog Production Colorado, among other contractors as well. Like I mentioned, Excel is proposing non-lethal passive relocation, reverse dispersal translocation, also known as RTD, for the black-tailed prairie dogs in the state park. Excel estimates this project will impact 14 prairie dog colonies and temporarily impact approximately 20 acres of colonies in the park. There are a total of 450 acres of colonies in the state park, so this project is proposing to temporarily impact 6% of the total acres of colonies. Excel is also proposing to temporarily exclude prairie dogs from their current burrows within the right-of-way as construction moves through the area. No prairie dogs are proposed to be moved off-site or even moved within the park. Prairie dogs will be excluded from their burrows, but will be able to freely move to the adjacent habitat. And Excel has no plans to continue prairie dog management and expects prairie dogs will reoccupy the right-of-way after the temporary construction. Moving on to slide 18, public outreach. Excel Energy held an open house on November 19, 2019 to introduce the project and gather feedback on the proposed route from residents and stakeholders in Greenwood Village and unincorporated Arapahoe County. This open house was posted in the newspaper, and notices were sent to 580 property owners by mail. Excel indicated that most attendees were concerned about the safety of the pipeline, how close the line would be to their residents, whether installation of the pipeline would impact their property values, and the construction process. The applicant also held numerous one-on-one meetings with different jurisdictions during the planning process. So this site is designated as open space in the Arapahoe County Comprehensive Plan. The proposal is in conformance with the following goals and policies found on slide 19 of the PowerPoint. Ensure the adequacy of electric, natural gas, telephone, cable, and internet utilities in existing and new development. Avoid natural hazard areas when fitting critical public facilities. Consider utility needs to support growth and development of the region, and require land use compatibility when fitting local and regional utility facilities. Moving on to slide 20, discussion, regulatory review of the 1041. The 1041 permit approval criteria for a major facility of a public utility shall comply with a number of criteria set forth in the 1041 regulations, and also a number additional criteria found in Section B of the 1041 regulations, which allows for approval of a permit if the proposed activity complies with 21 general criteria for a major facility, and then there are 4 additional criteria for a major facility as stated in the staff report. The staff has considered all of these criteria requirements and feels the application does meet all 25 1041 criteria. Staff has received a number of written comments from concerned citizens. Prior to the staff report, staff received about 6 inquiries from citizens since the Planning Commission. But overall, staff received about 47 written comments from the time of prior to the Planning Commission and as late as this morning. So a number of the concerned citizens expressed concerns about wildlife and habitat, the loss of habitat. If you're looking at the staff report and the attachments on the agenda, all of the Planning Commission comments received by staff prior to the Planning Commission can be found on page 47 of the document known as ASI 20-001 CSR attachments. Comments received by staff after the public hearing but prior to October 1st can be found on page 84 of that same document. And then all of the comments prior to 3 p.m. on Friday, October 9th can be found on the attachment to the agenda known as ASI 20-001, additional public comment received after October 1st, 2020. The commissioners did also receive an email this morning with 3 additional comments that will be included in the record. Staff findings, you can see on page 22, staff has reviewed the plans, supporting documentation, referral comments, and citizen input in response to this application, and based on a review of the applicable policies and goals as set forth in the comprehensive plan, review of the development regulations, and analysis of referral comments, our findings include the proposed 1041 application is in conformance with the overall goals and intent of the Raptor County Comprehensive Plan, in that it provides for development of public facilities and services within Arapahoe County, and that the proposed application complies with the review and approval criteria of the regulations governing areas and activities of state interest in Arapahoe County, also known as the 1041 regulations. Staff is recommending approval of case number ASI 20-001, Southeast Metro Natural Gas Project 1041 permit, subject to 7 conditions of approval. These 7 conditions of approval can be found on slide 23 of the PowerPoint if you're following along there, or they can be found in the CSR that was provided on the agenda. I stand for any questions that you may have, and I know that there is applicant representative who would also like to make a presentation.
Are there any questions from commissioners on to Ms. Hammer? Madam Chair? Commissioner Jackson? Can you hear me? Yes, we can. Okay, thank you. I have a couple of just definitions. One is, what does it mean to consider the fencing and the other amenities around the one visible facility? And the second is, what does it mean to temporarily relocate the prairie ducks? In my inbox, I got almost exclusively prairie dog questions, so it's certainly of heightened interest to our constituents. So can you help me with those definitions? You also used a term, and I can't remember what it was. I wanted you to define, but if it comes back, we'll come back later.
Commissioner Jackson. Yeah, so when I meant that consider fencing, it is a condition of approval. So Excel is exploring their options right now, whether a cedar fence is something that would be appropriate or a chain link fence with some natural shrubbery. If the commissioners feel one of those options is not adequate, we can definitely revise the condition of approval to make that more clear on what type of landscaping and screening the county wants to see. As far as the temporary relocation of the dogs, I am going to divert that question to the applicant, who should be able to address that during their presentation or afterwards.
Thank you. Any other questions for commissioners before we hear from commissioners before we hear from the applicant?
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Conti, and I do have additional questions, but I think I'm going to wait until after we hear from the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, if there are no further questions, let's go ahead and hear from the applicant, and then we'll come back to questions from commissioners, and then open it up for public comment. So if the applicant would please identify yourself with name and address, and please go ahead.
Commissioner, this is Michelle. Kat, who's the applicant so we can take them live? Great. I believe this might be her. Hang on. Let me take them live. Kelly? Kelly? Is this Kelly? Great. Okay. Commissioner Sharp, we have the applicant on the line.
Okay, thank you. Kelly, would you please state your name and address for the record, and please go ahead.
Yes. So my name is Kelly Bratti. Address is 1123 West 3rd Avenue, Denver, Colorado, 80223. So I'm going to be presenting on the Southeast Metro Natural Gas Project. I am the project manager. With me this morning on this call, I have several team members that you may hear from today. Tom Henley from Excel Community and Local Government Affairs team, Esther Manana, the project engineer, Brian Tomlinson, the pipeline engineer, Adam Pena from permitting and right-of-way, John McDonald on our permitting team, Maria Alvarez, also on our permitting team, Vanessa Yogi, also permitting, Matt Kaczynski, our environmental consultant, Josh Solis on our public outreach team, and Lily Montesino, who is our water resource specialist. And I will move down to slide 2, Kat, titled Presentation Overview. During this presentation, you'll hear the project need, some routing factors, route alternative analysis, information on the proposed route, permitting and agency consultation, how we have avoided impacts to natural resources, how we are working to minimize visual impacts, the proposed schedule, what to expect during construction, safety measures, public outreach, our qualifications, and finally the conditions of approval that Kat reviewed as well. I will move down to slide 3, titled Project Needs. Excel Energy will be installing approximately 5.2 miles of 20-inch diameter high-pressure steel gas pipeline to replace the existing pipeline in Arapahoe and Denver County. Approximately 3.3 miles are within unincorporated Arapahoe County. The 20-inch pipeline helps to serve the Southeast Metro Denver area, and the project proposes to replace the existing pipeline with a new pipeline between an existing regulator station in the city of Centennial near East Cayley Avenue and South Troy Circle, and an existing valve set in the city and county of Denver near the intersection of South Yosemite Street and East Hampton Avenue. The replacement pipeline will connect the same endpoints as the pipeline currently in service. The existing natural gas transmission pipeline serving this area must be replaced to conform to the new record-keeping rule issued by the Pipeline and Hazardous Material Safety Administration, PHMSA, back in October of 2019. The replacement will be in line to meet the new rule. We have confirmed the safety and integrity of the existing line through testing and will continue to operate a portion of that line as part of the distribution system that serves customers in this area. Operating this portion at a lower pressure, it does continue to meet the new PHMSA rule as well. I will move down to slide 4, titled Replacing the Existing Line. So we investigated replacing the pipeline in the same location as the existing. Since being installed in this location in the 1950s, development has occurred around the line, and installing the line in the same location is really not feasible. The images shown on the slide show 2 examples of development that have occurred near the existing pipeline. The existing pipeline is shown in light blue, as you can see in the picture to the left, is adjacent to homes in the area. In the picture on the right, you can see the tennis courts have encroached on the existing alignment and easement in the area. And moving down to slide 5, titled Routing Factors. Excuse me. So after we determined that the existing pipeline corridor was really not feasible to install the new pipeline, we conducted a comprehensive routing process that considered several factors. Some of the factors include existing infrastructure, engineering requirements, construction logistics, land uses, environmental factors, community impacts, the existing natural gas system and future planning, and land rights. All these factors were used to develop route alternatives and eventually the preferred route. Moving down to slide 6, titled Route Alternative Analysis. So during the routing process, we evaluated multiple routes in the study area. The red border on this map, we did determine that the new pipeline must be located in the study area so we can continue to support the natural gas system serving customers in the southeastern Denver metro area. The pipeline will require tie-ins to regulator stations and a valve set along the route. When making routing determinations, we aim to find opportunities that meet the engineering requirements of the project while also reducing impacts to the extent feasible. As you can see from this image, we did evaluate several different alternatives. The dark blue line is the existing alignment, and the dashed light blue is our proposed alignment for your reference. And I will move down to slide 7, titled Proposed Route. So the best ranked route in the study area that met engineering requirements while minimizing impacts is shown in light blue. We've installed portions of the new line in Denver, Greenwood Village, and Aurora where approvals have been granted. Xcel Energy has coordinated with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and Colorado Parks and Wildlife with respect to the project. Routing and construction plans, specifically those for Cherry Creek State Park, have been developed in line with guidance provided by these agencies. Down to slide 8, titled Permitting and Agency Consultation. Xcel Energy does comply with agency and jurisdictional requirements. We consult with agencies and jurisdictions that oversee our projects and submit permit applications that identify and minimize potential environmental and wildlife impacts. Xcel Energy consulted with at least 14 agencies ranging from federal to local to plan and seek permitting approval for the Southeast Metro Natural Gas Project. As the project continues, we plan to continue to keep our agency and jurisdictional partners informed of the project status. Moving down to slide 9, titled Avoiding Impacts to Natural Resources. Protecting the environment is one of our core values. Xcel Energy's operations have an excellent record of being responsible environmental stewards. As we developed our plans, we evaluated environmental resources and designed the project to minimize potential impacts to these resources. The project will cross prairie dog colonies within Cherry Creek State Park. We will implement a reverse disposal transportation method to passively relocate black-tailed prairie dogs. We are committed to using a qualified contractor to passively relocate prairie dogs for the project, and are currently evaluating contractors who have demonstrated success in passive relocation of prairie dogs. This method includes placement of physical barriers to reduce potential interaction between prairie dogs and construction crews. We anticipate that prairie dogs will repopulate previous work areas following construction and revegetation efforts. We have coordinated with Colorado Parks and Wildlife regarding potential project impacts to nesting birds and burrowing owls. Qualified avian biologists have conducted and will continue to conduct nesting birds and burrowing owl surveys through next year. Xcel Energy will follow Colorado Parks and Wildlife buffer recommendations to the extent feasible. The project will comply with the Migratory Bird Treaty Act and Golden Eagle Act, both of which prohibit take of most birds or nests, including raptors. For the waterway crossings, we will install a concrete encased line between 6 and 10 feet beneath the natural bottom of the waterway. And I will move down to slide 10, titled Minimizing Visual Impact. The new pipeline will be installed underground. We will install one valve set above ground next to Peoria in Cherry Creek State Park. This land is managed by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and Colorado Parks and Wildlife. We are coordinating closely with them to determine and implement appropriate screening. One option for screening is to use a natural-looking fence that meets safety requirements like the cedar-type fence simulated in the image on this slide. We move down to slide 11, titled Schedule. We did begin initial planning for the Southeast Metro Natural Gas Project back in 2018. We started construction on the project in early July 2020. We're permitted within Aurora, Centennial, Denver, and Greenwood Village. We anticipate completing construction work on the project in August of 2021, of course, pending permit approvals. Restoration work is anticipated to continue beyond August of 2021, and we are committed to restoring disturbed areas to pre-construction conditions. Construction schedules are subject to change and can be affected by several factors, including weather. Move to slide 12, titled What to Expect During Construction. During construction, stakeholders may observe the following: traffic control, including flaggers measures as needed, delays to navigate through the work area, potential temporary changes to business and resident access, potential temporary trail closures and associated detours, additional noise during construction, material deliveries, construction equipment, and we will take measures to reduce construction-related inconvenience where possible. I will move down to slide 13, titled Meeting and Exceeding Safety Standards. Public safety is at the foundation of all we do. The safety of the public around our natural gas system influences every decision we make. We take a proactive approach to public safety by implementing safety measures before, during, and after construction. Safety is a part of all phases of this project: planning and design, construction, prior to putting the pipeline into service, and during the life of the pipeline. Move down to slide 14, titled Adhering to Pipeline Safety Standards. Our safety program ensures that we meet rigorous safety standards. Two main agencies provide oversight of our natural gas utilities that serve customers in Colorado: PHMSA and the Colorado Public Utilities Commission. This slide lists several elements of our safety program. During construction and installation of the natural gas pipeline, we verify the integrity of the natural gas pipeline through X-ray of all welds by an independent third party, and we also implement a corrosion prevention system designed to eliminate metal loss during the life of the natural gas pipeline. Once the natural gas pipeline has been installed and prior to being put in service, we inspect the inside of the pipeline with state-of-the-art equipment. and perform internal pressure tests using water to verify the pipeline's integrity. Throughout the lifetime of the natural gas pipeline, we will perform annual leak surveys and complete an internal inspection of the natural gas pipelines at least once every 7 years with an inline inspection technology. We perform continuous remote monitoring, which is 24/7 of our natural gas pipeline and all facility operations by Xcel Energy's Staff Gas Control Center. We provide immediate responses to any identified anomalies or hazardous leaks. And move down to slide 15, titled Accessing PHMSA's Reports Online. Information confirming Xcel Energy's safety record for natural gas infrastructure is publicly available through PHMSA's website shown here. We do report annually to PHMSA, and all of the reporting criteria can be found on the PHMSA website. I'll move down to slide 16, titled Industry Leading Safety Standards. Xcel Energy is an industry leader in damage prevention. We are proud of our safety record. Xcel Energy's damage prevention program, which works to prevent excavators from damaging our natural gas system, is in the top quartile of the utility industry. Xcel Energy is an active member of Colorado 811 and is a founding member of Full Shovel Standard. We perform extensive outreach to educate the excavating community in safe digging practices as well. Move down to slide 17, titled Public Outreach. We recognize the importance of communicating to stakeholders early and often to keep them informed about the project. We are committed to providing timely information to elected officials and stakeholders. We'll provide direct communication to stakeholders located near construction work areas, such as mailers, flyers, and in-person visits. Our project channels of communication include a dedicated website, hotline, and email address. Email and hotline updates will be provided bi-weekly and include information about anticipated schedules and potential impacts. Down to slide 18, titled Fiasco Xcel Energy Qualifications. Xcel Energy has a successful track record of installing and operating pipelines in Colorado. This project will allow our team to continue to provide safe and reliable natural gas service to our customers. Continue moving down to slide 19, titled Conditions of Approval. We have reviewed each condition proposed by Staff and Planning Commission and are committed to meeting them. Our plans to meet each condition are listed in the next slide, and we have provided information and coordinated with staff to respond to each condition. Moving down to slide 20, titled Conditions of Approval. We understand this board may modify these conditions as you deliberate this morning. As you know, Xcel Energy is a public utility that must operate under federal and state requirements. Portions of this project also cross land managed by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and Colorado Parks and Wildlife. With those considerations in mind, we appreciate the opportunity to confirm for you whether we can meet the conditions of approval if you propose changes to them during this hearing. Thank you. And moving on to the last slide, slide 21, just want to thank the commissioners and staff for reviewing and considering our application.
Thank you, Kelly. Questions from commissioners? Commissioner Conti, did you have some questions?
Well, the question that I had previously was answered. Thank you, Madam Chair. But I did have a new one crop up, and I would ask, and I was kind of scrolling back in the presentation to try to find it so I could ask it intelligently, and I apologize, I haven't quite gotten there, but maybe our applicant can educate me where I've forgotten what it was. You said early that this pipeline was being replaced in order to comply with new regulatory scheme for pipelines. Can you elaborate just a little bit on that and educate us as to what the purpose is, and also the low pressure that you talked about that was going to be used in this pipeline? Is that intentional, and will it be that way always, or is it able to be ratcheted up should demand ever need to be, or is that just what it is right now because there isn't quite yet the total demand because of we haven't grown that much, and if we grow further that you can ratchet up the pressure, or talk to me a little bit about that as well, if you could.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you're referencing is on slide 3, titled Project Need. So the
I couldn't scroll back quite that quickly. Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you.
No worries. So the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, they did issue a new regulation in October of 2019. And this essentially requires that operators maintain records of all their pipelines that are in service. This pipeline was installed, as I mentioned, in the 1950s. So construction practices, pipeline material, and manufacturing methods have changed over the course of decades as the company's transmission pipelines were installed. The code and rules around the pipeline record keeping have also evolved, so we are required to.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt. Just to punctuate a point, there is a current, and for the public record, there is a current pipeline that already exists in this location. What we are doing is putting in a new pipeline to comply with the regulations and for greater public safety. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Yep.
Thank you. Please continue.
Yes. And I think to answer your second question regarding the, I apologize, I just lost my train of thought.
So sorry.
No,
yeah,
it's okay.
You were talking about the regulatory scheme that caused these pipelines to have to be upgraded. And from what entity does that stem from? Where does that come from, that new regulatory scheme on the pipeline?
That is from the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, so that's from our federal regulators there. And then the second question was the lower pressure. So by derating this pipeline, it will remain in service and help us to serve additional customers that may come onto the system. Essentially, it'll just be derated and will comply with all federal regulations.
So if you ever needed to ratchet up and put higher pressure under it to possibly service greater areas of growth and a greater customer base, you could do that. And is that part of the potential plan?
That is not a part of our potential plan looking into the future. We would have additional federal regulations that we would need to follow in order to raise that pressure up. So if that ever did need to occur, we would have some strict regulations that we'd have to follow in order to do that, but we don't anticipate that to be a need in the future.
Thank you for that explanation. That does clarify the low pressure. And I was just trying to figure out if that was just a temporary thing or if that was going to be able to remain long term. And thank you for answering that.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions from commissioners? Okay, hearing none, I'll open the public comments period and just ask that remind anyone speaking on this issue that you have 3 minutes, and I will try to give you some warning, but you'll have 3 minutes, and please state your name and address for the record. And Michelle, you want to...
Yes, if you are a member of the public who would like to comment on this case, if you could press *3 at this time to get in the queue. Again, if you'd like to comment on this case, please press *3 to get in the queue. And we'll just give folks a minute, Commissioner Sharp. We do have a caller in our queue, and the last 4 digits of the number are 6919. If you could go ahead, state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
All right, can you hear me? We can. Please go ahead. All right, my name is Deanna Meyer, and I'm the Executive Director of Prairie Protection Colorado. And I just wanted to call in to say first, of course, I strongly object to this pipeline. And there was a question earlier where they asked if this was in the same pipeline, and it's in a totally different route. So I hope that that's understood. Like, the old pipeline is nowhere near Cherry Creek State Park where they're going to put it through. So the main reason that I object to this too is this is the only area in the park where they don't kill prairie dogs, and they actually have it as a habitat conservation zone for the prairie dogs, so it is really disruptive, and it goes through over 3 miles of the park with a 50-foot wide sweep. That being said, if you all still are going to pass this, I am very grateful that you did agree to hiring a relocation expert, and I'm hoping that it's the one that we have recommended, which is Growing Ideas. And if that is the case, then we don't need to be worried at all about the safety and viability of the prairie dogs being moved, because we are assured that they will be relocated in a very humane and the best way that you could possibly get. So I just wanted to voice that too, that's very much appreciated that you've looked at that, and that's who we're rooting for if you guys do approve this, because it will get done, and it will get done right. And I just also want to say the importance right now of timing. The ground is going to start to freeze, and it's going to get more and more difficult to actually move these prairie dogs out because they start torpering and going down. So if we can get whoever the person is going to do this in there like immediately, that would be very helpful. Or, to take into consideration that it might need to be postponed until June if we wait too much longer, because the prairie dogs will die, because they will not be able to be passively moved if they start to go into a torpor type of hibernation, and if it gets too cold to where they're just not able to be moved. So that's just my request and my voice. And again, I'm glad that you're looking at that. I'm sad that this pipeline might go through there, but please allow this person to get in there as soon as possible and to move these safely and viably if you guys want to get started in the near future. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate them.
Yes, we have another caller who is live with the last 4 digits of 2146. If you could go ahead, you have 3 minutes.
Please state your name and address for the record, and go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Michelle Heinerman, and my address is 5318 South Telluride Road, Centennial, Colorado. I have been a Cherry Creek State Park annual pass holder since 1999. I am extremely concerned at the delay in solidifying a passive relocation prairie dog specialist that practices non-lethal methods. Because as the person just mentioned previous, is of paramount importance that this activity begins immediately. And I feel like, from what I've heard, Excel is smoke and mirrors. The initial prairie dog relocation plan that was submitted with this, the applicant had submitted was bogus in the nicest way to say it. If you humanely and ethically want to take care of the wildlife on our beloved park, the activity needs to begin today. It is paramount. Winter is setting in. These animals go in and out of torpor. If you have any moral conscience. This is something that will be solidified today. Persons will be allowed on the site to begin this passive relocation activity. And that said, I'm extremely disappointed that this brand new pipeline is going through some of the only protected habitat conservation land that is, around. I mean, this is a beloved park for so many residents. We're in the middle of a pandemic. This has been a godsend for people. The land, I would like to add, the land that this pipeline is going through is a home to resident bald eagles. This pipeline is going to completely decimate their feeding ground, which is the prairie dog colonies, even passively relocating them and pushing them back. Still, this pipeline, this construction activity is going to absolutely disturb the eagles. So we have a resident pair of bald eagles. We have a golden eagle. We have a dozen various different raptors that are out there. We have a recent spotted bobcat out there. We have a variety of animals. And additionally, I'd like to add, Excel Energy, the last burrowing owl survey that I have seen in the applicant's paperwork was from 2019. And I would like to ask the applicant, where is the burrowing owl survey for 2020? Because we do have burrowing owls on our park. And this 3-mile monstrosity is going through 3 miles of wildlife habitat where definitely we've had burrowing owls. And we're fortunate enough to finally, in the past couple of years, get burrowing owls back at the park. But in one swift move, this pipeline will decimate that. I can guarantee you, if it doesn't kill the burrowing owls on its way, it's definitely not going to entice them to come back. So I'm very, very disappointed that this brand new pipeline is being put through wildlife protected habitat, some of the only protected habitat that we actually have here in this area, and a park that is paramount and for the mental well-being of your constituents, of which I am one, and from everything from cyclists to walkers to joggers to camping to everything under the sun. From the minute the sun rises till the minute the sun sets, that park is swarming with activity. And to say that the park and so on and so forth and everyone is in agreement, I think that that's a bit misleading because, this is federal land. And as you can see from the applicant's paperwork, the address is Pennsylvania Boulevard. So we're talking, this is backed by somebody, help me out, I'm just a novice layman here. But it looks like it's DC, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So I think that the voices of the people are not being heard, definitely, because if they were, if your constituents, if the constituents and the people of Colorado and Denver and the people were taking, our voices were being taken into consideration, this pipeline would not be going through the park. The existing pipeline would be taken care of, and you would be upgrading the existing pipeline, which I would like to add, the existing pipeline, which is a different route, is going to be left to just simply in a dilapidated state, Google cleaning materials through all the pipelines, our waterway, the nightmare of what this is doing, ma'am, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm sorry to cut you off. We may have others that would like to speak too. We appreciate your comments, so thank you. Michelle?
Yes, we have one more caller with the last 4 digits of 5022. You are live. If you could state your name and address for the record, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Marisa Huber. I'm at 8090 East Grassland Drive, Denver, Colorado, 80231. And I just want to say, first of all, it's pretty disappointing to have a natural gas pipeline to go through a protected wildlife habitat in a state park. With all the environmental destruction we've seen and the impact, I'm surprised that we are going through with this. But as a citizen that's really concerned about the environment and wildlife, and a member of the community, I really want to know, I've heard about how Excel is planning to, relocate the prairie dogs humanely, but how are we going to be kept in the loop of their plans? Like they have, obviously Prairie Protection Colorado has suggested a relocation expert, but Excel is considering other people too, it sounds like. So how are we going to be kept in the loop, and how do we trust Excel to make the right decision? Like, if Prairie Protection Colorado is the expert offering a suggestion, why is there any discussion about that? Like, if we know that the suggestion that Prairie Protection Colorado has, if they're going to do a good job, then why is that up for debate at all? So I just, I feel like it's our responsibility to speak on behalf of animals that do not have a voice, and for our leaders here to really do the right thing and make sure we're making the right decisions.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate your comments. Michelle, do we have anyone else?
There's no one else in the queue.
Thank you. If there's no one else in the queue, I'll close the public comment period and go back. I think there were several questions here that I think are good questions, like when would this relocation process start? When would a company, or maybe the company to do the relocation, has already been selected, and if so, would you let us know that? And then the other one was on communication in terms of the project, and how could the public continue to get information on this project. Kelly, can you help us with some of those questions?
Yes, absolutely. So to address the comment of when can we begin this passive relocation, we are currently working with a vendor to get them on board to begin the passive relocation. We will begin as soon as we can receive the final approval from the Board of County Commissioners and give some direction on the conditions as needed, but we will not act without the Board of County Commission's approval. As far as communications goes, we do have our dedicated website, email address, information line, an email subscriber list. Emails are sent out every 2 weeks, and I think that's the best way for us to be able to provide updates on our progress through the park.
So, Kelly, I don't know whether this we'll vote here in just a minute, but if it were approved, you said that you would start, like, what is start as soon as possible? What does that mean?
We would have to finalize contract on our end with getting our vendor on board. But I think we should be able to move on this pretty quickly.
Does that mean like in the next couple of weeks, or does that mean more than a month? I'm sorry to kind of pin you down, and I'm not really sure, I guess this, I'm not sure of the term, but torpor, but I'm assuming that is a hibernation process that the prairie dogs go through. And so I think the concern is managing around that.
Yes, correct. So I guess to also add, we do have to get the right of entry permit from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We have already run this by them as well to begin as soon as possible. So I can't necessarily give you a definite answer as to when we could get started. There's a few things that need to fall in place, but we, assuming we get approval, we would move as quickly as possible.
Madam Chair.
Okay. Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Baker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just wanted to say that I heard one of the folks say, one of the citizens say that this is one of the only areas where they don't, where they allow prairie dogs to burrow and live there, and not bother them. I guess they don't remove them from other places. I know that there's a lot of prairie dogs around, but I'm wondering if either Kelly or Kat could say whether or not the plan is to relocate them. If the state park, the Colorado Department of Parks and Wildlife, Corps of Engineers, whoever is in charge of that and allows them to be, this village to be there where it is and not be bothered, then I'm sure they can find another place in the park where these little fellows can be moved to and allowed to, again, live and or be food for the raptors and or the other predators. So I just don't know if there's a plan to relocate them to Adams County or to Douglas County or to someplace else in the park, someplace else in Arapahoe County. And I just wanted to suggest that if the Colorado State Parks and Wildlife folk would consider it, I think they should consider having another area in the park where these, it would be a short move. It would be like, a couple blocks over or something, instead of, moving them to New Mexico or something like that. So just a suggestion, and if you know, let me know. If you don't know, it's no big deal, but it's just I felt it necessary to make that suggestion.
I think that it's in...
Go ahead. Go ahead, Kelly.
Sorry, thanks, Kat. I think I just want to clarify, from our perspective, that prairie dogs will just be temporarily relocated outside of our construction area, so they'll remain within the park area on that. And I don't know, Kat, if you had something else to add to that.
Actually, good news.
This is Kat Hammer. I just wanted to mention that we do have somebody from Colorado Parks and Wildlife on the line if you have any specific questions for them. I believe it's Larry Barfield.
Yeah, Larry, do you know, and it sounds like from Kelly that, again, this is not a relocation, it's a temporary relocation. It's kind of like renting a condo until your house is finished kind of thing. I did that once, and it worked out really well. I rented a condo, and then I moved back, I had my house remodeled, and that seemed to work really good. But Larry, do you know?
Yeah, can you guys hear me? It's Larry Butterfield.
We can. Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, within our prairie dog management plan, we've done surveying of where the prairie dog colonies are within the state park. So there are areas along the corridor where the selected contractor will be able to move the prairie dogs passively, so they won't be, injured or anything like that when they get moved from the work area, and then they'll be able to repopulate the area after Excel is done working in that area. Does that answer your question?
Eddie. Yes, it does. Yeah, okay. I was thinking we're going to move them completely out, but excellent. No, that is good news. I'm good.
Yeah, and we have numerous areas on the west side of the park that are prairie dog habitat and active prairie dog colonies exist. So there's lots of options for Excel to move them and then let them repopulate the area after they're done working in that location.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think I've driven along where Bellevue turns into Peoria there as it curves through the park. I've seen hundreds of prairie dog burrows in that general vicinity.
Thank you, Larry. Go ahead, Commissioner Jackson.
Yeah, I have two questions, one for wildlife and the other is just more general. The general question is, how wide is this pipeline going to, how much are you going to expect, what's the width of the land disturbance that we're talking about? And then the second question is, one of the callers mentioned the possible disturbance of eagles, and I'd like a comment about that.
I I can answer the question regarding the width of the right-of-way. It will be about 75 feet wide during construction. 50 feet of that is a permanent easement, and 25 of that is just a temporary construction easement. Regarding the eagles, I would, if Matt Kaczynski, if you are on and are able to answer that question, I think that would be very helpful. And you'll hit *3 to get off mute.
Yeah, we can go to Matt or to Larry, either one.
Okay.
I'm not sure who wants to.
We actually have Matt here on the line right now. Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
So Matt's here. I can defer to Larry too if Larry's available.
Hold on.
Well, in general, the only eagle nest is up by the spillway on the north end of the park. There was another eagle nest in the central area of the park. Both are far from the project area, and we don't expect any impacts to eagles from the project.
Thank you. That's reassuring.
Larry's live too right now. If you want.
Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, just to talk about the Raptor monitoring that goes on within the park. We have biologists and we have volunteer Raptor monitors that come out on a weekly and monthly basis that monitor birds that are within the park. So we have monitors that have different locations where they check to see where active nests are and where active raptors are within the park. So we have up-to-date information on that, and we've shared that information with Excel Energy.
Thank you both. Any other questions from commissioners?
Madam Chair?
Go ahead, Commissioner Conti.
Thank you. I wondered if, from our Parks and Wildlife, if they could talk to us a little bit about the concerns that were raised about the need to begin this project immediately because of the potential freeze, and what the prairie dogs do during a freeze, and how that would make a obviously very great challenge, if not impossibility, to move them in a passive and acceptable means for our citizen testimony. If you could kind of comment on that.
Yeah, I'm not a biologist. My degree is in land use management, so I'm not an expert in that specifically. I'd have to check with our biologists to get a specific answer on that. I'm all in favor of us getting going with the work and supporting with what's been proposed to help protect the prairie dogs as much as possible and to make this as effective as possible as well.
Right, and as far as land, freeze cycles and so forth in Colorado, one of the things that I have noticed over the years is that fall is traditionally more pleasant and less likely to have the hard freezes than a lot of times once we get past, December and, January, February, March into April. We seem to have more harsh freezing and storms and so forth in the spring almost than we do in the winter, and the fourth quarter of the year. Is that Am I imagining that, or is that also your observations? And would that mean that if we were, let's presume that the testimony that we've heard today would be in compliance with the biologist that you would check in with, that they would need to have construction on this rolling within the next, certainly 15 to 30 days?
Not sure.
Freezes.
Yeah, go ahead, Larry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, with Colorado, it's hard to predict what the weather's going to do, but it seems like fall to winter, you know, the month we're in October through December, it's not as harsh of cold freezes that we get. And then when we get into January through March, that's when we really experience much colder temperatures with that. But yeah, I'd have to check in with our biologists and see what the recommendations would be for contending with that issue.
Thank you. And okay, and then I would love to, after we finish with you, I would love to talk with our applicant, Excel, and see if they thought that was possibly, you know, if that was even in the realm of possibility as far as timeline.
Yeah, and can I pass it off to Matt Krasinski? If you're still on, I think you can speak to the prairie dog.
We're getting them. Hang on. Yep, here you go. Go ahead, Matt.
Am I on?
You are. Please go ahead.
Okay. Yes. Just to support the idea that the sooner our prairie dog contractor can get on board with the relocation, that's better.
Okay. Any other questions for commissioners or comments from commissioners?
Madam Chair?
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Conti.
Yeah, I'm just thank you for saying that you agree that the sooner would be better. Talk to us if, you know, it is delayed and they can't start until, you know, November 15th, December 1st, and that means the project goes into that, you know, January, February. You know, I have no idea the timeline for doing this, and that's one of my other questions for Excel is, you know, what is the proposed timeline if, you know, they were to gain approval today? I'm sure they have some kind of sense of what the length of time that these projects take, and I would like to hear that. And if it were to be able to start, you know, immediately, you know, it would potentially affect, you know, for if they were delayed in starting, what would be the potential effect to the prairie dog population?
My understanding is that the sooner that prairie dog relocation can proceed, the better from the effectiveness of the relocation techniques. Yeah, that's my understanding. I will defer to our prairie dog expert, but as we get into later on in the season, my understanding is that it becomes more difficult, or it may take longer to relocate prairie dogs.
I don't know, Kelly. Yeah, go ahead, Kelly.
I was just going to speak to schedule, and I think the longer we wait to do the prairie dog relocation, the longer lead time we'll have on construction there. And I think that John McDonald may also be able to help speak to this a little bit better. John, if you're on and can speak to that, would be great. And star 3.
Go ahead, John. Oh. We lost John temporarily here. Hang on. John, are you on? Okay, go ahead.
Just to follow up on what Matt was saying, we all understand the importance of doing it early. I think if we run into a situation where there is a weather event, we would assess, and if it's short term, from what I understand and talking with others, if the weather improves after it gets warmer, they start moving around, we can continue to work for some time. Then if we reach a period where it's cold for a sustained period and prairie dogs are not moving around, we definitely, that's why we're going out early on now to map all the bells and to see if there are trees that are not, either do not have burrows or they're inactive, and that work could take place if, during cold weather, so as to not disturb any prairie dogs. Lastly, of course, we would coordinate with the park and Army Corps during that time. And then lastly, if those areas are, we finish or complete those and there's nothing else to do other than the prairie dog, active prairie dog areas, we would wait until they are active again to complete. To complete the construction in the spring, and hopefully, that's if it's cold in February, March, it's not waiting too long for it to warm up again. But that's my understanding of the process.
Thank you, John. Any other comments, questions?
Madam Chair?
Yeah, go ahead. Commissioner Conti.
Right. I certainly can concur that Colorado is a friendlier state to do potentially winter projects in than most other states that know 4 seasons. I recall from my tenure in my tour of duty east, and when I lived in Ohio and Pennsylvania, and the common phraseology that was used was from October to May is nothing but shades of gray. And how much nicer it is in the great state of Colorado, with the beautiful sunshine that we enjoy, 300 plus days a year, and what that does to, not allow, the hard freezes, and we do get great days of sunshine. So I'm sure that while it would be more difficult, it may not be a complete impossibility. If there's anyone that can talk about, so that I could understand the depth that the prairie dog would burrow compared to the depth of the pipeline would go, and then the depth of, how much further the prairie dog might go in cold weather, freezing, temperatures, ground freezing, that kind of circumstances, that kind of thing, if anyone happens to know that.
I believe John is still alive, if he can answer that.
The prairie dog burrow depth, I'm not exactly sure. I know the pipeline depth does vary depending on if you're going crossing river, depending on soil geology and a number of things. It generally, I think, it's 4 feet of cover, though is general. the top of the pipeline, the 4 to 5. The prairie dog burrows, I know some of them can be quite deep. The depth of them, though, I would guess definitely beyond 5 feet, but the total depth, I'm not sure. Matt has an idea of the total depth, but I'm not. Sorry, I can't answer that.
Kelly, you're live. Can you answer that question?
I apologize. I don't know how deep they do go. We can look into that a little bit further.
I'm waiting to see if anyone knows the answer to that. Okay, if not, we'll move on and probably it'd be good to get that information though. Any other questions? Okay, hearing.
Commissioner, I'm sorry, we do have Matthew or Larry who looks like can answer that question. Matthew is live right now. Matthew? Can you answer that question?
Matt, do you know how deep prairie dogs bury? Or burrow, I should say. Burrow into the ground.
Hello. No, I do not. But I do know that there are other utilities within this area that have posed no impediment to prairie dog establishment, and also there is going to be no, after the project is completed, there will be no prairie dog exclusion from the project area. So prairie dogs will be able to move back into the right-of-way once construction is complete.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Baker.
Yeah, I just learned that prairie dogs can dig down 7 to 15 feet.
Great, thank you. Okay, if there are no further questions, I'll entertain a motion from commissioners.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Baker.
In the case of ASI 20-001 Southeast Metro Natural Gas Pipeline 1041 application, I have reviewed the staff report, including all exhibits and attachments, and have listened to the applicant's presentation and any public comment as presented at the hearing, and hereby move to approve this application based on the findings in the staff report, subject to the following conditions. 1. Prior to signature of the final copy of these plans, the applicant must address Public Works and Development staff comments and concerns. 2. Prior to commencement of construction on the project, the applicant shall obtain all necessary federal, state, and county permits required for occupation, environmental, and building/work permits for the project. 3. The applicant shall continue to work with Mile High Flood District to resolve concerns stated in the recommendation letter received by the county on August 19, 2020. 4. The applicant must meet all of Tri-County Health Department requirements and receive approval from Tri-County Health prior to construction. 5. The applicant will employ the services of an experienced, ethical, non-lethal prairie dog relocation specialist and relocation of such animals shall be subject to the provisions of Colorado Revised Statutes 35-7-203 as applicable. 6. The applicant will provide safety information to the county regarding existing Xcel Energy pipelines currently operated and maintained by Xcel Energy in Colorado. And 7. The applicant will provide screening and landscaping around the above-ground valve set as appropriate with approval from the United States Army Corps of Engineers and Colorado Parks and Wildlife.
Motion made by Commissioner Baker. Is there a second?
This is Nancy Jackson. I'll second it, and just with the caveat that I think our applicant has heard a lot about the community's concern for prairie dogs. So with that in mind, I will second.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Motion made by Commissioner Baker, seconded by Commissioner Jackson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously, and agree with Commissioner Jackson. There are a lot of very good comments, and particularly to get this, the relocation started as quickly as possible. Thank you, and thanks to everybody for all of your time and for the public comments on the pipeline. We're going to move to our second public hearing, which is PM 19-002, Avere on the Highline Minor Subdivision Final Plat. And our presenter is Molly Orkild-Larson, Senior Planner, Public Works and Development. Our attorney on this matter is Mr. Robert Hill, Senior Assistant County Attorney. Mr. Hill, would you set the foundation, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This application for a minor subdivision final plat has been noticed as required under the Land Development Code by newspaper publication, mailing, and posting the property. The board has jurisdiction to proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Ms. Orkild-Larson, please go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. Molly Orkild-Larson, Senior Planner with the Public Works Department. What's before you is the Avere on the Highland Minor Subdivision Plat. This application process proposes to combine lots 2 through 6 of the Sunny Gal Plat and an adjacent parcel into one lot of 4.12 acres in size. This parcel is situated in the 4 square mile area, is adjacent to the Highland Canal and the South Quebec Way trailhead. The property is being platted to accommodate a 3-story, 56 multi-family unit development. The specific development plan was before you in November of 2018 and was approved by you. The Planning Commission approved this plat that's under review today in August of this year, and an administrative site plan is currently being reviewed by staff. The cash in lieu fees for this application is $313,389, which is comprised of $121,546,000 for parks, $184,169 for schools, and $7,674 for other public purposes. Staff is recommending approval based on the findings of the staff report. This concludes my presentation. If you have any questions at this time, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
This is Commissioner Jackson. I'm just verifying. I think it was in the BSR that the 4 square mile group has reviewed this and they had no comments.
Mark Lamford spoke at the planning meeting, and he commended the applicant on addressing neighborhood concerns, a question, and was looking forward to this development moving forward.
Thank you. And there were no other comments?
There were two other emails that did come in. One objected to the application but didn't give me a specific answer even when I reached out to them for further information. The other was the daughter of the residents that lived across from the proposed project, and it was on traffic and drainage, and that was all addressed under the specific development plan. And I explained to her that that was reviewed and approved by the board, and we were reviewing the plat at this time, and that I didn't get any more feedback from her.
Thank you. Any other questions? And hearing none, I'll open the public comment period. And Michelle, do we have anyone who would like to make a comment? A public comment period. I think it seems like everything's explained pretty clearly, and there don't seem to be any additional questions. But let me entertain the public comment, and then if there are, we'll go back to the applicant or to you, Ms. Orko-Larsen. So, Michelle, do we have anyone who would like?
If there are, if they could hit *3, we will get them in the queue. So we'll just give it a minute. I don't necessarily see anyone who wants to comment at this time, though. So no. It looks like there are no public comments at this time.
So I'll close the public comment period, and again ask if there are any questions for staff or for the applicant. Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll do this one.
Okay, Commissioner Jackson.
Let's see. This says approved with conditions. I guess that's what we're doing. Okay. In the case of PM 19-002, a variant on the Highline minor subdivision, the county commissioners have reviewed the staff report, including all exhibits and attachments, and have listened to the applicant's presentation and any public comment as presented at the public hearing. I hereby move to approve this application based on the findings in the staff report, subject to the following conditions. 1, prior to signature of the final copy of this plat, the applicant must address Public Works staff comments and concerns. 2, the applicant shall place a note on the final plat identifying the reception number of the blanket easement for the dry utilities. And 3, prior to the recording of the approved MyLAR, the applicant shall pay a total amount of cash in lieu of $313,389.44 to be distributed as follows. Schools, $121,546.53. Public parks, $184,169.19, and other public purposes, $7,169.19. $673.72.
Thank you. Motion made by Commissioner Jackson. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion. Bill Holman.
Seconded by Commissioner Holman. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. Appreciate it, and appreciate the applicant being on the line to answer questions, and we just didn't have any, so thanks again. Our third public hearing this morning is submission of the 2020 recommended budget, and our presenter is Todd Weaver, Director, Finance, and our attorney on this matter is Mr. John Christopherson, Deputy County Attorney. Mr. Christopherson, would you set the foundation, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This item was properly noticed in this board and acting as the ex officio board of the Arapahoe County Water and Wastewater Public Improvement District. The Aqua PID Board has jurisdiction to proceed with receipt of the 2020 proposed budgets and to set hearing dates for the adoption of the 2021 proposed budgets.
Thank you, Mr. Christopherson. Mr. Weaver, please go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. This morning I'm pleased to submit the recommended budgets for the Arapahoe County, the Arapahoe Law Enforcement Authority, the Arapahoe County Recreation District, the Arapahoe County Water and Wastewater Public Improvement District, as well as the Arapahoe County Building Finance Corporation for fiscal year 2021. All the budgets included in all of the budgets that we've included in the 2021 recommended budget are balanced and in conformance with Colorado law, including the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. Just a couple of quick facts about the budget that you have before you this morning. There will be a more comprehensive presentation of its contents at a study session on October 20th, next Tuesday, when the Executive Budget Committee will present those recommendations to the full board. This year's budget was rather challenging compared to the last few years due to the economic changes that the country and Colorado and Arapahoe County have undergone following the pandemic. The revenues across all of the funds in the county were relatively flat for 2021, and in the general fund there was only about a 1.7% increase in revenues. In the budget you have before you for 2021, the total budget across all of the 26 funds that we're recommending appropriation of funds for, the total is $426.2 million. That is a 1% decrease over 2020. In the general fund, the total budget in the document you have is $210.3 million, or a 0.2% increase over 2020. Total staffing is 2,293.27 FTEs, and our estimated ending general fund balance for 2021 will be $55.6 million. We just received the certification of tax values from the assessor on Friday, so all of the property tax projections and revenue projections related to that property tax and taxable value are estimated at this point. There's a number of things that we'll have to revise in this budget before you consider it for adoption on December 8th. The property tax calculations foremost among those, as well as resetting the payroll expenses and making any corrections or additions or edits that the Board of County Commissioners would like to make. As I said, there'll be a more comprehensive presentation on this budget on October 20th. The public hearing date that will be set for this 2021 budget is October 27th. And then the adoption we are setting in the resolution before you today will be December 8th, 2020. So very brief remarks for this morning. The more comprehensive presentation is coming up. If there are any questions or concerns, I can address those at this time. Otherwise, that concludes my remarks for this morning.
Any questions for Mr. Weaver? Thank you, Todd. I'm sure that there probably will be more when we talk more comprehensively about this. I'll open the public comment period now. Michelle, do we have anyone from the public that would like to speak?
If we do have a participant, if they could hit *3 to get into the queue, that would be great. I do not see anyone who would like to comment at this time.
Okay. Thank you very much. With that, I will close the public comment period. John, go ahead.
Yes, I just emailed out an updated motion, and I noticed on our draft motion we did not include the Arapahoe County Building Finance Corporation. So the motion that was just sent to your emails includes that budget in there as well. So that with the attached updated motion, whoever would like to make that one, that would be great. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Commissioner Baker.
I'm prepared to make that motion.
Okay.
I move to acknowledge receipt of the 2021 recommended budgets for Arapahoe County, the Arapahoe County Law Enforcement Authority, and the Arapahoe County Recreation District, and the Arapahoe County Building Finance Corporation, and as the ex officio board of the Arapahoe County Water and Wastewater Public Improvement District, acknowledge receipt of the proposed 2021 budget submitted for the Arapahoe County Water and Wastewater Public Improvement District, and set the date of October 27th, 2020 as the public hearing date for these proposed budgets, and further establish December 8th, 2020 as the date for the public hearing for the adoption of these 2021 budgets.
Do you have a second?
Second. This is Commissioner Jackson.
Seconded by Commissioner Jackson. Motion made by Commissioner Baker, seconded by Commissioner Jackson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. Are there any commissioner comments this morning? Okay, hearing none. Thanks everyone again. Meeting is adjourned.
The Access Live event has ended. Thank you for calling. Goodbye.
Thanks, Jeff. Sorry about the confusion.